Welcome to Below the Forest Floor. My name is Nancy, and I'm joined by my co-host / husband, Ryan.
Hello.
Today we are going to be talking about the infamous Winchester Mystery House. So I personally have heard about the Winchester Mystery House. I don't know if you have, Ryan, like before this episode.
Oh, yeah. I had known a lot about the story of it, and then listening to different stories, like from other podcasts and everything, and just listening to the different, YouTube and on the History Channel and things like that.
Yeah, that's pretty much where I got a bulk of my knowledge from the Winchester Mystery House, because every year the Discovery and History and all of those things, even like Fox would have the Halloween kind of events going on their channels, where they would basically spend 13 days of Halloween. I thought that was like ABC or something. They did that too.
Yeah.
Where they would go ahead and show documentaries of like places that were haunted. Like there's this one of this woman, I can't remember. She was this woman who spoke very like quietly, and it was very scary, and she like did all the voiceovers for these things. It was so terrifying. Have you ever heard that woman? Like the woman with like the very like quiet voice.
Is it the very raspy voice?
Yeah, like oh my gosh, she was scary. Like she scared the heck out of me.
I think you're talking about the person that did the it was almost sounded like an old, like a witch hag kind of, like,
almost like it was very fitting to the topic. And I remember like I'd get so scared hearing a voice that I would get so excited. But like that's basically where I learned about the Winchester House. I would watch all these like documentaries. I don't know if you could really call them documentaries, if they're about like haunted place. Does it count? And I heard stories about the woman. The basic knowledge I had was a woman was married to somebody who had to do with a rifle company, and then he died, and then their kid died, and then this woman was basically left with a bunch of money. The ghosts got mad at her because they were the ghosts of the people who died to the weapons that were being made by her family, and they made her build this really crazy house with stairs that led to nowhere. That was like my base knowledge from what I remember, and her name was Sarah Winchester. But today we are going to be talking about the actual information and go into some pretty interesting things, like the number 13 being brought up a lot in these situations, and also the full story of what happened. But as usual, you guys know that I like to go into the history of these sorts of things, so I will talk a little bit about that before we move forward. The Winchester Mystery House started construction in 1884 and wasn't done being built until 1922, when Sarah Winchester passed away. The original home actually started off as an 8-room house in San Jose, California, which I think is extremely interesting that they started from a house that was already started. I honestly thought they built the house from the ground up. I didn't know that there was a house that was already there that they just started adding on to, but I guess it makes sense.
And speaking as a person who it almost hit me in the face with the microphone, getting it closer to me. But speaking as from someone who's had experience of adding on to homes, it can be quite difficult if you're trying to add on to a home like that. So I can only imagine, especially with how big it got, the structural integrity of that initial home would have needed to have been pretty good. And then you need to make sure that you get the structure around as well as sturdy as you can.
Because wouldn't you have to start building more onto the foundation and stuff? Because that's not going to hold that many rooms and all of the stuff that they added in there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Wasn't it at one point that we saw that in one of the documentaries that they were talking about that it was spilling over the property at one point?
Neighbors had said there was reports of neighbors mentioning how it was just so weird that this home just keeps growing and growing and growing. And I can only imagine they're just thinking, it's wasn't that big yesterday or something like that?
Right. And the crazy thing is that 100 years ago, it was actually worth $5 million at that time.
And I had adjusted that for inflation of today, with 2021, it would be $107,996,062.99. I love how it came to 99 cents, though. I really do.
All the best things, dude. But honestly, that's kind of insane. And the fact that when Sarah Winchester got her inheritance from her husband dying, she got $20 million. So only $5 million going to the construction of this house. She lived pretty comfortably during that time.
And looking at the numbers that I had adjusted for inflation for that would be over almost $450 million today.
Dang, Sarah, share. Like, come on, girl. Anyways, we'll go a little bit more into Sarah's personal life, because although Sarah Winchester did technically build the home, the entire reason for this even happening starts with her husband. So Sarah Winchester was married to William Winchester, and although people believe that William Winchester was the inventor of the repeating rifle, or the Winchester repeating rifle, it was actually his father, Oliver. And I'd seen so many documentaries say Sarah was married to the inventor of the rifle, or the Winchester rifle.
I had the same things looking up, especially when I was younger too. There's a lot of conflicting things where it's like that sometimes people seem to get Oliver and William mixed up,
which it's understandable. The story's way more interesting to think like, oh man, the inventor's wife, had to deal with the ghosts of the people who were murdered by this rifle, and rather than, oh, it's just the secretary of the treasury that's the son of the inventor who had to deal with this. Like, it sounds so dumb. It's not as like, wow, we're out there. But technically, yeah, that's what William was. He didn't actually build anything. He was just a rich kid who got a lot of money when his dad passed, and then he gave it to his wife. But let's just put it this way. The fact that his family had anything to do with the passing of all these people is what they say made the ghosts feel this way towards Sarah. But we'll get more into the ghost thing later, because I haven't explained too much of that yet, which we have some funny theories about, honestly.
We'll throw some of those little tidbits out towards the end.
For sure. Like, I need to get, because like while we were doing the research and the person was talking about, the situation, we were just looking at each other like, these are definitely happenings of someone trying to mess with someone else, but that's for later. So what people say is that the Winchester rifle is the rifle that won the West because it could fire up to 15 rounds without having to be reloaded. It was the fastest weapon that had been created up until that time. And due to that being the case, there were a lot of deaths involved with it. And when Sarah's husband passed away, William, and her daughter had passed away, she went to a medium to go and talk to her about it and ask, what's going on. She was grieving. And the medium told her that although it seemed like it was tuberculosis that took her husband and a protein deficiency that took her daughter, it was actually not. That it was the spirits of very angry people who had been murdered by the Winchester repeating rifle. And honestly, I kind of get that. I get that could possibly be something that happens, because when you go to a haunted battleground or something like I talked about in previous episodes, people who die at these places die very violent deaths. They are not able to rest afterwards. So I kind of get what the medium was trying to say and talk about that could possibly have happened. Although, medicine wasn't super big back in 1880s, so there's always like, there's ghosts in your blood, do drugs about it.
And at the same time, also around that time, tuberculosis was like having a heyday on people at that time.
Yeah, and so that's how Sarah Winchester got her massive fortune of $20 million. And 3 years after Will died, that's when she actually started building the mansion, because the medium had told her, go west and start building a house until the spirits tell you to stop. If not, they're going to get you, basically.
Because what was it? She was in Boston when that whole thing happened, and then she moved to California, bought the house, and then started production on it once they got like all the workers and servants and stuff like that.
Yeah. And there were a lot of them. Like, this woman had money, she was gonna use it. The amount of staff there was just for servants were 18 to 20. There was 22 carpenters and there were 18 gardeners. And they worked day and night. I'm not sure if she had shifts for them or if she was just like, nope, just work. Work if you can.
It probably, because I did hear there was a lot of poor work conditions, which we'll go into later on about it, the production ending. But at the same time, there was day shifts, mid shifts, night shifts sort of thing, you know, like, but they had people working literally around the clock, 365 days a year sort of thing.
Yeah, she was never alone unless she went to like her room. And well, there was 2 rooms that Sarah Winchester would often go to, but we'll get switch. Yeah. We'd actually, well, I was talking about the seance room, but we'll get to that one in a little bit. Because there was only one room. It was just like the main bedroom they showed in the documentary.
Oh, okay, because I thought that she bounced back and forth between like a couple of different bedrooms to kind of keep the ghosts away from like,
I don't know.
Her in the same. So, okay, so going off from that is I remember hearing a story. I don't remember where it was from. I couldn't find it again when we were looking and stuff, but it was that she slept in different rooms of the house sometimes to try and like, you know, not let the ghosts catch her asleep.
Oh my god, that sounds familiar, but I feel like I didn't see it when we were looking it up.
Well, yeah.
That does sound familiar. That was really weird because, like, right as you said that, it started jogging memories of something like that. But I don't know, maybe it's like something we just thought of. Who knows? Because also this story has been around since like the 1880s, so it's been kind of, you know, strewn about and made different by people to make it scarier, to make it more believable, depending on whoever's telling it, what motive they have to try to get behind it. Because we even found a religious documentary about this house. It was just so weird.
The first half was great. The first half of the documentary was really good. Then they went into talking about the stuff that, like, what the ghosts could have been, and it was just okay. Well,
it got super silly. They had a lot of accurate historical facts at the beginning, and then it just got a little strange towards the end there. So as I mentioned earlier, when I was giving a brief summary of what the Winchester house is, or what I heard it was about, Sarah Winchester had a lot of rooms built into this home, but one room in particular was one of her, I guess, favorites, you could say. Not really favorites, it was just some room she used very frequently. A very, like, important room. And it was the seance room. Every night at midnight, a bell would ring at the Winchester Mystery House, and that would mean that the spirits were being summoned to the seance room, where Sarah would be waiting for them, and she would stay there for 2 hours every single night until 2 a.m., when the bell would ring again, notifying all of the people that were working and the ghosts that the seance was now over. And while she was doing this, people believed that she was being told what to build next in the home. Although I do have a few theories, like, there was always people around. I wonder if maybe anybody would try to whisper through the door or the walls, or like through the different places that led to that room, because there was like lots of elevators and fireplaces, maybe whispering to her, and she thought it was the ghost talking, it was these people talking or something, because, you know, it's a pretty nice job.
At the same time also, okay, so my thoughts on having the bell chime to, like, say that the session is over or anything like that. What if they didn't exactly, like, let's just say they didn't end the session properly. I know that they had a medium there and everything every single day, but if they didn't, like, think of like a Ouija board, you know, where it's not, goodbye. Yeah, you had to, like, go through the process of closing it. What if they didn't also? And a lot of the crazy things that were going on in the house were possibly because of that.
Like, you mean like she was just summoning and summoning and summoning things every single night, and it got to the point where she may not have known how to properly end sessions, and it's just like, oh great, now ghosts everywhere.
Yeah. Oops, all ghosts.
It's gonna be our next what is it, merch drop?
Yeah, honestly, it'll be a picture of the Winchester house. Like, you can draw one, and then it's just like, oops, all ghosts.
Oh my gosh, there's like a cereal bowl in front of it. It's got it's got like a little ghost marshmallows or something.
Winchester Rose. So, going on from all of that, the house itself, by the time she had gotten done, quote unquote, because it was never actually done when she passed away, they just kind of stopped.
It was technically done, just not well.
Like not finished and completed, just done. Drop your tools and leave, sort of done.
I would be too.
But it ended up being 160 rooms over the course of 38 years. As we said, Sarah passed away in 1922, and the construction started in 1884, so that was a 38-year hold of building this home. And some of the rooms are nuts, like just completely insane. There are doors that open up into walls. There are doors that open up into nothing that is, what was that one, 12 feet above the ground?
It was a 12-foot drop out the front of the house.
Yeah, the front of the house. And it's got like a sign on it that says door to nowhere or something like that. It's like, that's perfect. But moving on from that, there was a lot of doors that would just open up into crazy things. People are saying that there's probably even rooms that nobody's seen still, because there's secret passages throughout the home.
There was even doors that were like the size of toddlers. There's like normal doors, huge doors, tiny doors.
Yeah, the tiny door that goes to like a children's balcony, like it's a small balcony size or something like that. It was crazy.
There's so many balconies. Yeah.
And then there is a staircase that is, what they call it? The switchback steps. It's a staircase that moves up about 9 feet, so basically it would just bring you to the landing above, so like from first floor to second floor. But it turns 7 times. Like, how if you go up to a landing, there's usually like halfway between first and second floor, and then there's another set of staircases to take you up the rest of the way. It did that 7 times. It had 44 steps, which is usually about the amount of steps that you'd have for that. But they extended out, like, what was it we had found? It was like 6 feet. They extended out like 6 feet long.
Oh, 9 feet.
No, 9 feet.
Oh, yeah.
9 feet high, yeah. But it was like, it was 6 steps, and then it was
6 steps back and forth and back and forth.
Yeah, it was 6 steps, then it would loop around, 6 steps, loop around, 6 steps. Each of those 6 steps would only take you up about a foot.
And Ryan actually tried this here at home. Like,
I walked it out in our room, and I started getting really dizzy. So I can only imagine that it might have been made to, because there was also some talks about like some of the rooms that were built without, quote unquote, the ghost's knowledge.
Yeah. Because
the rumor for that was that they were building the house to try and confuse all those ghosts.
Yes, that I have heard. I have heard about the trying to confuse the ghosts, which would explain the whole twisting stairs and the places that lead to nowhere, so that the ghost couldn't find them, or would, not, I guess, make it out, but they're ghosts. I don't know.
Well, and also the windowsill floor, the window that's placed in the floor, that could explain things like that as well.
Because on one of the floors, they actually built a window right into the floor, not like one of those tempered glass floors that you could walk over.
It looks cool, though.
It does look very cool, but it's definitely not one of those tempered glass floors that they just put a real window with very breakable glass in the floor, and it's got railings around it. But I was talking to Ryan, and I was like, do you think that they put the railings in before or after the construction was done? Because they do have tours at this place. They do have people, like, they are allowing them to visit. I can't imagine that they would like find this and be like, oh, we should probably make sure people don't fall and, get hurt. And I don't think the people who were originally constructing would have thought of that, because Sarah didn't really use a majority of the house.
And going from that also is that I think there's a little bit more credence to the fact of them putting it up after, because can you imagine how many kids would try and stand on it?
way too many.
Because it's like, oh, yeah, and windows are not built to hold things like that.
Our dogs bumped into the window when they were playing and broke it. It's not gonna hold an entire person. But on top of that, there is also a very interesting way to get into the kitchen from one of the floors, because there is a 9-foot drop when you open one of the doors that leads straight into the kitchen area.
So that's about the same height as that staircase. So basically it's like, you'd be falling from the second floor to the first floor at that point, but you'd be falling onto a kitchen table and things. Which was hilarious to me.
It sounds like a sim house I once built out of laziness because it said I needed a kitchen and stairs. So I just threw it all together.
There you go. You know what you need to do for the YouTube channel then?
What?
You need to play The Sims and you need to make a home like this.
I have the supernatural expansion pack. I can have ghosts in there.
There you go. You can see if a ghost can actually make it through to find your person in a home that you make just absolutely bat crap insane.
I have to be careful though, because some of the ghosts literally start fires in homes. I remember one time I tried to build...
If I can't find you, I'm going to burn this whole thing down.
I remember one time I tried to build a sim house in the supernatural. It wasn't even the supernatural expansion pack. It was the regular Sims, because you can have ghosts in the original Sims pack too. On Sims 3, and I built a house for me and Ryan to live in, and I was like so excited. It was a supernatural, because I was like, I'm gonna be a witch and Ryan's gonna be a vampire. We're gonna be supernatural creatures. It's gonna be fun. And I start at the house, and the first thing I see is a ghost pop up, and he starts starting little fires in the house. And I was like, "Are you kidding me?" And then it's like, "Would you like to exorcise the ghost for a certain amount of money, or would you like to just worry about it later?" And I was like, "You know what? I need some of the money to buy like things for the sim house. The ghost can stay for a little bit." Well, everything burned down. There was no house.
So yeah, I really think that should be something where you have an entire playthrough where you're just like, you need to add on to your home in every in-game day and keep going until your sim dies, and see just make random, just any addition no matter what.
I am so down for that. I think I'm going to do that this week leading up to Halloween. Oh, perfect. We got me so many games for Halloween, like to play on stream for Halloween stuff. And now I'm like, I'm just going to go back to Sims as always.
Okay, so because you mentioned that, shameless plug right now, we had the idea of on Halloween, because of Phasmophobia's new update, we're going to be streaming it. So if anybody's...
And really quick, if you don't know what Phasmophobia is, it's a game where you're a ghost hunter and you have to go and figure out what ghosts are haunting these houses.
And it is awesome. I love it. It's hilarious. It's terrifying. It's hilarious for me. It is terrifying for everybody involved. If I can get the VR working, I'll do it in VR. And we can stream it.
Don't make me do VR, please, on my side.
No, you don't have to,
Okay.
But I'm saying it's like... I might try and do that. It depends on how, because it's on a Sunday, so...
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if I want to move my computer up
On
that
a
far.
Sunday.
But we will be streaming it, though. So if you guys want to, do you want to...
If you guys want to check out our stream on Sunday, we're not sure at what time we're going to be having it yet, because setup with the VR set takes a little while, but it is going to be on our Twitch channel, Esterloon and Metriel. I will be putting in the description today what the name is, so you guys can go and check it out. We stream pretty often per week. We'll stream things with Ark Survival Evolved, a survival game where you get to like capture dinosaurs and use them to murder NPCs, like random people that are trying to murder us, or you can murder other dinosaurs to use for equipment and all this other good stuff. We play other little games like that if you guys want to check it out.
And if anybody knows what Valheim is or Minecraft, it's a lot like those two. It's just it has dinosaurs and it's got the survival aspect. And I just thought that because we were talking about all of this, especially with Phasmo and trying to see if we can get some people to watch during that stream, it'd be if you want to come in and talk about the podcast or anything like that, you can do that too. We'll be there.
Yeah, like I do think it's an interesting concept, because for those of you who may have been here from the beginning, you know I have lots of experiences with haunting, so you can imagine like the PTSD I get from playing this game with everyone. I'm like, I know what's gonna happen. I've been through this before. I've had stories of this from my family where this would happen and that would happen. So I'm over here panicking and freaking out because I already have gone through some of these things personally, and everyone's just la 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 having fun. But yeah, so back to the Winchester Mystery Home. But yeah, if you guys want to check it out, I might do the Winchester Mystery. I might call it like a Winchester Mystery Challenge or something for Halloween. I'll start trying to stream it this week on our Twitch, Australian Metriel. But back to like this whole thing, I think we pretty much talked about all the weird stuff except for the number 13, which we had a lot of thoughts on. So the number 13 comes up a lot in the Winchester home, or in the building of the Winchester home. And Ryan, would you like to talk a little bit about it?
Okay, so I knew a little bit about the supernatural significance of the number 13, but I didn't know in exact what it was. And what we had found was that it symbolizes the death to the matter or to oneself, and the birth to the spirit, the passage on a higher level existence. And in tarot, the number 13, the 13th card is death, and it mostly means death of a struggling period and new beginnings. And the number 13 signifies it brings the test, the suffering, and the death. So I had a weird thought when I had started reading that, and I was like, wait a minute, thinking of her entire story right now. The test could have been her continuous building of the mansion. The suffering, which could be her feeling like the ghosts were after her, like what the media had said, and with her daughter's passing, and then shortly after her husband's passing, that could be that part. And then the death, because she did pass away after spending 38 years of building this mansion. So the number 13 does show up a lot during their construction, and weird things around the outside of it as well, where like there's 13 palm trees in their driveway. The grand staircase has 13 steps. There are 52 skylights in the house, which is a multiple of 13, which comes out to 4. So that's 4 sets of 13 to make up the skylights.
And there are actually other sets of 13 that I found or remember, such as the 13th restroom having 13 windows. I cannot imagine having a restroom with 13 windows. I don't think I could do. I couldn't go. I wouldn't want to.
Yeah, I've been in some houses that have had a couple of windows in the restroom that aren't like the, you know, frosted glass kind of ones or anything like that, and it's creepy.
They're not.
Nope.
Ew. Did they have curtains? I have to ask.
There were curtains.
Oh, okay, curtains were a thing. Well, I was a little concerned. I was like, my goodness, these people are just out and about, open with everyone. But I'm sure this restroom wasn't even used. There were so many rooms in this house. I'm sure a lot of things weren't used.
Well, with how many servants and construction workers were there, I can kind of see it.
Maybe. Do you think there's people hooking up in the house? Like, there were so many people day and night. Like,
oh, I'm sure.
I don't think there was like, they were constantly really working. Like, who's gonna tell? Who's gonna tattle on them? Like, to the Sarah Winchester, the old woman who lives upstairs and talks to ghosts. Who's gonna like, I kind of wonder how many of these people were actually working.
What I can say is that's a crazy thing that happened, though. They went from 8 rooms to 160 rooms, and yes, it took 38 years to do it, but that's impressive to me, especially back then.
But another thing I found weird was this wasn't in the restroom that had the 13 windows, but there is a sink apparently that has 13 drain holes. How did you fit that many drain holes in a sink? At that point, it's a tub. Or I would assume it's a pretty big sink.
Or if it's one of those things that like, you know, like the drain hole cover has like so many holes in it.
No, because it's a drain hole, like not drain hole with many holes inside of it. Or at least that's what I would assume. It's just, it's really a strange thought to me that this was even a possibility. And the fact that this was built between the 1880s and the 1920s, and this thing had 3 elevators in it. Yes, they don't look like modern elevators. They are pulleys with ropes, basically, but they're still elevators, and it had 47 fireplaces. That doesn't have anything to do with like the whole number 13 thing, but the fact that it had so many fireplaces. I remember Ryan earlier I told him, I was like, no, they can't all work. He goes, yeah, sure they do. And then they show this one that was inside a room, and that's where it ended. And I was like, what? I hope nobody ever read that one.
But with that one it stopped production a meter from the ceiling, meaning they were probably going to try and put it up through the roof, but it went up 4 stories. It had to go to the roof.
Like, but why so many? And why so big? And it's... well, I guess, you're just trying to build and build and build and build. So you're just throwing things up at some point. I'm sure, like,
you've got doors to nowhere. You've got doors to the floor of falling down into a kitchen. You've got a door that can lead you outside with no balcony. Maybe the balcony was supposed to be an addition later on. They just didn't get to it yet.
No, it's to fool the ghosts, or one could assume. But that's basically all the information we were able to get from the Winchester house, but there was a small jokey theory that Ryan and I had earlier when we were discussing all of this, because we like to talk a little bit about it before we actually get started, so that we're trying not to ramble around you guys. So earlier when we mentioned the medium and the medium speaking to Sarah Winchester before all of this even happened, we mentioned that when she went to the medium and said, I'm so miserable, my daughter died, my husband died, what do I do, what's happening? And the medium told her, what's the ghosts? The ghosts are doing this. They didn't really get sick and die. It's because of you're cursed and this and that. Well, I was talking to Ryan and I was like, what if, just hear me out, what if this medium didn't actually believe this? What if she didn't like the fact that Sarah Winchester was a part of the family that made so many weapons and, killed so many people? Or maybe she just had lost a member of her family or someone she was close to the Winchester repeating rifle. And maybe she was like, oh, here's my chance. Here's my chance to mess with one of the richest, most evil people in America right now. And she's just like, go west. And it's basically like, get out of here. Go elsewhere. Go really far out there. You know what? Go to the middle of the ocean almost.
It's also, do you remember some of those old stories where it was like, when they tell you it's like, go out of town, keep walking till you can't walk anymore or something like that? Kind of sounds like one of those stories also.
Yes, that. And not only that, but she also, if I'm not saying it was, but if this was a trick to just get rid of this woman and to make her suffer, she messed with her mentally by telling her that the ghosts had cursed her and they would be following her forever. That might have made her crazy enough to actually start hearing voices in her head telling her these things, because she needed to hear someone telling her to do something so she wouldn't die or continue to be cursed. But she also messed with her financially, because this woman had a lot of money inherited from all these deaths that happened. So she's like, let's go waste your money too. You got to build a house. You got to build a big house. Don't stop building that house. Just waste all your money building this this house you're never gonna use. And so there she went. There Sarah went, going and building this giant house, going west away from these people, and just wasting all of her time, energy, and money on this house and on pleasing the spirits. So if this woman just did it because of being upset at who she was speaking to, this has got to be one of the greatest pranks of all time.
Yeah, honestly, I don't even really know what could top that at that point, because if that's true, just saying a very big if, it's just kind of crazy to hear that the story's crazy in general, but just starting to think about it, it's like that, and then the mediums that heard the story and then they're now witnessing it because they got pulled into the seance room in these days. They could just be thinking oh, this person's supposed to be building onto this house forever, so they're going to be needing mediums. I'll just become their regular, I get paid. So that too. Yeah. There could have been could have been a monetary gain from them to, you know how everybody says like, you know, well, what would be the purpose of this person making up this thing, like, you know, for like Bigfoot? It's like, what do they gain by saying that they saw this person? It's like, yeah, but sometimes there's a monetary gain. So like these mediums could have been, there is the possibility that, yeah, they could have just kind of been looking out for their own financial needs as well.
Which, honestly, I mean, go get your bag, girl, you know, like, whatever. You know, they got her. But that's if. That we're not sure. It could have all been, you know, a situation where...
I would love to go there, though.
Yeah, you want to go to the Winchester house sometime?
After hearing Travis say that he had been there, I was like, if we can't try and have him on the podcast or at least talk about that a little bit, though, I would like to see, you know, going there. Because it's San Jose, California.
I'm just so clumsy. I'm going to fall through that window floor. I can already imagine. I'm sitting here like, it's cool, but I'm going to get hurt. I'm going to walk. I'm not going to be paying attention. I'm going to open up the door. There I go. Bye, Nancy. See you someday, I guess. I don't know. It's like, now I'm the ghost that haunts this place. But another thing I forgot to mention was they say that the actual place is haunted. So I do wonder, like, maybe, do you think any construction workers may have passed? Like, at one point you're building and there's a place to nowhere. Like, you could have fallen.
I actually heard somewhere on a different podcast when they were talking about this, when I heard it a while back. I think it was Graveyard Tales one. And it actually mentioned, I believe, that there was some of the workers that had passed during the process of it. So people are thinking that it could have been them also. And then for my theory on it is that if they're opening up these seances with bell chimes and possibly not closing them properly, just, you know, ghosts upon ghosts every day, you know, more of them and more of them.
Oops, all ghosts. But on that note, all of the ghosts and the home and Sarah Winchester are more than welcome to hang out here with us below the forest floor. Thank you so much to everyone who's been listening. This coming weekend will be our very last episode of season 2 for Below the Forest Floor. Yay! What, are you happy it's over, Ryan? just kidding. No. No, but in all seriousness, thank you to everyone who's been supporting us and hanging out with us and listening to the podcast. We really appreciate you all being here with us. We are so excited for this to, you know, this season 2 to be over, because we have so many more stories for you all. We have so many more adventures to talk about with you guys. We have so many things in the work, and we just want to make season 3 better than ever. Like, season 2 was already longer than season 1, and the episodes were by far the longest I've ever had. And I'm just so thankful to have had everyone's feedback and support during this time. I appreciate you guys hanging out with us, and I hope you all have a great time and don't miss out on the very last episode on Halloween, which is the day I will be uploading it.
So there will be that episode plus our stream on Halloween.
Yep. So if you guys want lots of spooks for Halloween, you're not doing anything like we aren't, because we're doing this. Make sure to come hang out with us. We'll see you all later. Bye.
Bye.